And welcome back to another episode of the Real Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Jacob O'Connor. Real Conversations is a podcast for those dedicated to doing hard things and living a meaningful life. It's crazy to think that it's already May. 2025 is absolutely flying by. But the significance of May, in my opinion, is that this has been almost 2 years since I've graduated from college. John and I graduated in May of 2023 and then started working on the restaurant, built it out. We're now 6 months into being open. But I got asked to do a talk at Wichita State University yesterday to some students. And the theme of my talk was about not knowing what you want to do after college. And I think there's this general sense of like, as you head towards graduation, it's like, what am I doing with my life? Like, what's my purpose? What's going to drive significance? How do I find this right answer, this perfect job? Like, there's this overwhelming feeling to have it all figured out. And that's not reality. And so the theme of my talk was, as long as you're willing to take opportunities as you come, and when those opportunities come, as long as you're willing to double down and give them your absolute best effort, you're going to continue to get more opportunities. And those will be stepping stones until you do find the right opportunity, the thing that you want to do, the thing that's going to give you the most upside, the most fulfillment, the most enjoyment. This is be willing to take those as they come to you. And hopefully that provides just a little bit of a potential sense of calmness if you're in that situation. I know a lot of my listeners are kind of in that college age range and they're heading towards graduation or thinking about their post-grad plans, or maybe you've already graduated and you still don't feel like you found what that thing is that you want to do, that you want to dive deep into and give it your best. And I hoped that talk kind of gave that sense to the students yesterday. But what I wanted to do this week is mix in a little bit of what I told them, as well as I reflected recently in a LinkedIn post on the fact that it's been 2 years since I graduated from college, just about, and then it was also 6 months of operating the restaurant. Those two coincided just about the same timeline. So I broke down kind of that 2-year journey and then the 6 months of being open. I was able to find kind of 4 common themes, 4 talking points that I thought were important when I reflected on that process. And I'd kind of like to dive into that today and just share some of my insight. Hopefully that can provide you guys with some sort of value, something that can be actionable for you guys to consider with your own life and help you take steps forward. So the 4 things that kind of stuck out to me, the first one is I said, take the opportunity, even if it scares you. It didn't make a lot of sense for John and I to open a restaurant. Neither of us had ever worked in hospitality, but we knew that the unconventional route often has the most upside and is also typically the most fun. And that's something that we realized through our time in college, working on our name, image, and likeness business called Player Card. Doing something where you're standing out from your peers, doing something that's not traditional, where you're building the structure yourself, you're doing the cold calls, you're meeting with people trying to get advice, doing something outside of the norm is super uncomfortable and very difficult, but equally correlated to that is the amount of fun you had. And so I know that there's a correlation between risk and reward. This is evident, it's been studied. But for me, there's also a correlation between risk and excitement. And so for me, building something from the ground up is risky, but it's also the most exciting thing I could have done after college. So I'm incredibly grateful that John and I made that jump. And that excitement is really what keeps me going in the low moments, the difficult times that come through entrepreneurship and owning a restaurant and just being in business in general. The second point that I talked about, this will come as a surprise, I talked about the power of compounding. And I know this is something I talk about a lot, but this really is one of the most significant things in the world to me. I said, you don't need to have the perfect skill set to get started. With enough focus, you'll gain them quickly as a consequence of diving into something new. Skills and knowledge compound in an exponential manner, which drastically shortens your learning curve. You'll be surprised how much you can learn with 6 months of dedicated, consistent focus. And this is something that John and I kind of underwrote. Like when you're looking at doing a business, you have to make these assumptions. And usually you're making assumptions about, how much are we going to do in sales? What are we going to do here and there? And it's a lot of number-based assumptions that you're doing. But John and I actually underwrote our learning curve with our assumptions. And so from us starting after graduating in May of 2023, and neither of us ever having worked in restaurants or in the hospitality industry, we made the assumption that if we focused and put consistent effort into learning about the hospitality industry, we'd be able to shorten our learning curve and become proficient and competent restaurant owners within a 6-month period. Now, I'm not saying that we're the best out there. I'm not saying that the person with 20 years of experience, I'm not saying we're not on that level. We're nowhere near that. Like we have full respect and understanding of the difference between people who've been operating for a longer time horizon than us. But I will say in 6 months of being open, the amount that John and I picked up and learned as a consequence of calling other successful restaurateurs, learning from them, gaining that mentorship, reading different books, listening to podcasts, researching online, and then just diving into our own operations and working with our own managers, we have taken in probably 5 to 10 times more inputs, 5 to 10 times more information from credible sources than other people would have in 6 months, just because we were willing to do that work. And as a result, because of so many inputs, we've learned so much quickly. We've learned so much quicker. And so our compounding has just continued to stack on top of itself. And after 6 months, John and I are sitting at a point where we're very happy with how the business is going. And sure, we have room for improvements, and they're glaring. They stick out to us. We can see them because we're in there every day. But as we talk to some of our mentors who've been in this space for a long time, they're pretty genuinely impressed with the progress that John and I have made over this time horizon. And we share our financials with them. We talk through operations, and we've made very strong progress. And so understanding the power of compounding, it doesn't just have to be restaurants. If you're sitting there and you're like, I don't have any skills, I don't know anything about this or that, but I'm interested in real estate, I'm interested in e-commerce, I'm interested in running my own online store. Like, it doesn't matter what it is. If you have an interest in something, just be willing to dedicate 6 to 12 months of consistent, focused effort, and you'll be surprised how quickly that knowledge will compound upon itself until you're at a point where you can operate efficiently in a competent manner, and then just continue to stack that. I'm sure 6 months from now, John and I will look back and we'll know so much more than we do at this point. And then 12 months after that, 24 months after that, it just continues to stack on top of itself. So you need to understand this is like a real principle. This is not something where it just works one time. It's not something where it's just a linear correlation. Like, this is literally exponential. The results you get are not going to be in a one-to-one manner. So if you're willing to just take the time and invest it right now, even if it's frustrating, even if you have to give up things or make a sacrifice to continue to build, in the long term, I really do believe that it's going to just pay off in a manner that you couldn't even believe how well it worked. Hey guys, Jacob here. Real quick before we get back to the episode, I just want to take a quick second and say, if you guys are enjoying this episode, please make sure to share the link with a friend. You may have noticed I don't run any ads in the podcast. In fact, I don't make any money off the podcast. It's quite the contrary. Over the past 5 years, I've invested a lot of time, money, and effort into the growth of the show, trying to continually upgrade the equipment, bring on better guests, and just improve the overall quality of the podcast. So if you guys are enjoying this episode, or if you enjoyed previous episodes, please share the link with a friend. Saying it to 1 or 2 people makes a huge difference for me on the back end. As always, I appreciate your guys' support. Let's get back into the episode. So just take the time now to do the work, and you'll be surprised how far you can go in 6 months. The third point that I made was surround yourself with people that are smarter than you. Mentors and like-minded colleagues have been key for us. Learning from someone else's mistakes and actually implementing their advice adds to your compounding. Having people in your circle that have built something of significance helps you broaden your scope of what is possible for yourself. This one has been super key for John and I. We're very transparent and honest with the people that we talk to. And I think that that's why we're able to get so many meetings and continue to build our network. Is I think it's maybe refreshing when you sit down with someone that is an industry veteran, has a lot of experience, they're highly successful, they've done all this, and you're willing to sit there and say, I don't know anything. Like, look at where I've messed up. I'm going to point them out myself with the genuine hope that they're going to actually be able to help and impart wisdom to you. John and I are thankful to have the co-founder of Freddy's Frozen Custard and Steak Burgers. There's like 500, 600 locations in the U.S. One of the co-founders has become a good mentor of John and mine. And that's literally what we do is we sit down, we're like, here's all the things that we think we're doing wrong. Do you have any tips for what we could do better? And do you see anything else that sticks out of areas that we can improve upon? And like, just being willing to put yourself on the line like that, you can't take that feedback as something negative. You can't let it hurt you. You can't take it personal. Like, genuine feedback in the hopes of helping you do something better is the best thing you could possibly have. Because if you're meeting with people that are smarter than you, the hope is you come out of that conversation with actionable insights to actually increase your business. Like, if someone's willing to give you feedback and you perceive it as harsh, the fact that they're willing to give you feedback, as long as they're credible, but the fact that they're willing to give you feedback means that they actually care about your business. They care about you. They want you to improve. That's why they're providing you with this insight. So I feel like that's something John and I have done really well. It's just being able to be vulnerable, be transparent, share financial, share data, share whatever we need to share so we can get the most upside out of these conversations that we're having with some of these incredible people that we're fortunate enough to meet with and call mentors. And that's been one of the biggest hacks for us. A secondary benefit of this is they've built something incredible. I mean, you look at having a couple hundred restaurants that you've started, and you look at like the scale at which these people have been able to operate, and they own all of this real estate. And I mean, it just, even outside of the restaurant industry, John and I grow our network with anyone who is successful because these principles translate across industries. When you look at what these people have been able to build, their stories and their journeys are almost never in a manner where you can connect the dots looking forward. Just like Steve Jobs says, you only connect the dots looking backwards. So when we meet with these people and we hear these things they've done, we see these steps and progression that they've taken in their journey, it just opens John and Mai's awareness to things that we can keep an eye out for, opportunities that other people may not see, ways to vertically integrate within your business, ways to involve real estate with what you're doing with the restaurant. Like when you think of, I have one restaurant right now, we've been open for 6 months. It's been a lot of work. It's like, okay, I want to work on a second restaurant. I think I can do 2 restaurants and that's going to stretch us. And then you meet with someone who's got 100 restaurants and they tell you, why couldn't you do 20 in 10 years? And they just broaden like what you thought was possible. Like you, if you're looking on a small picture, if you're looking at a small time frame, it's like, well, that's a lot. But then they have you widen the time frame, and then they share with you their progression, how they did it, and they tell you the pitfalls and things to avoid of how they made these missteps, and they try and help you out. And all of these things come together in this cool manner that, as long as you're willing to actually take the advice that they've given you, it shortens your learning curve and adds to your compounding. And that to me has been one of the biggest hacks that John and I have been able to do. And I highly encourage anyone that's listening to this, find those key people in your area that are absolutely crushing it, that you look up to, that you think can provide insight to you, and go find a way to connect with them, provide genuine value. Don't ask them for anything other than advice, and be willing to take it if they're willing to give it to you. And the last thing that I said about this is play the long game. I once heard the definition of work expressed as the sacrifice of the present for the future. This concept has been ingrained in my mentality. Decisions made for short-term gain and satisfaction are almost never beneficial in the long run. Being future-oriented is a core value for John and I with what we're trying to build over the next few decades. All in all, it's been wild how much has changed since graduating in May of 2023 and how fast time has gone. I'm thankful for the journey and everyone that's been along for the ride. Playing the long game is so, so important. I mean, there's so many things in this moment right now that'd be fun to do, that would be easy to do, that would provide no value to yourself in the future. Like when you're in the moment and you're doing work and it's something that's hard, it's like, oh, this sucks. Why don't I just quit? Why don't I just leave? Why don't I just stop? The benefit of the work that you're doing isn't going to come out of that moment. Like, of course it's going to be hard. The benefit of the work for what you're doing is going to come down the road somewhere in the future. And so if you continue to look at it that way and just stack those hard days on top of each other, you have a hard week, well, you're going to get some sort of output down the road that's going to be related to that work that you put in that week. If you're willing to sit there and delay gratification, prolong it for a long enough time period, you're going to have some sort of return that is going to be much bigger than what you could have anticipated. And so when we think about what we're trying to do, it's like, yeah, there's quicker ways we could have done this. There's a faster way we could have done that. Like you could go and try and build a relationship in an authentic manner just to try and get money from someone, and use that for your own self-gratification to grow what you're trying to build in your business. But that is a short-term game. And thinking this manner of short-term gratification versus long-term benefit, I've really started to put the things I'm doing in my life into one of those 2 buckets. And sure, there's things that you want to do along the way that are purely for the short term, but it's because it allows you to have fun during the journey. Like all you have is the journey. You can't save everything for that final, I reached the pinnacle goal. I finally reached my potential. No one's going to reach their potential. That's not actually possible. So you have to do some things along the way that help you to make memories and are enjoyable. But as I put things into these buckets, I feel like I need to be living, 20, potentially 30% in this moment, enjoying this time, but 70, 80% of what I'm doing needs to be for the future, so I can have that future benefit of all of the work that I'm putting in right now and allow that compounding to take place so that I can have these outcomes that other people aren't going to have. And to me, all of that ties in together of like the most fun thing I could have done after college was go on this unconventional journey, dive into something I knew nothing about, do it with great people, surround myself with the smartest people I possibly can, and just be willing to play the long game and see what happens, see what comes out of it. That's been the most fun thing. And sure, it's been hard moments, a lot of work. And there was times where it's been, what am I going to do after college? I understand how overwhelming that was as I was graduating and how people are probably feeling that way now as they head towards that. But like, I would just really encourage you guys, like, you've got time to figure that out. You don't need to have answers right now. Just be willing to try things, take the opportunities as they come, be willing to double down on them. And if I can ever help any of you guys, please feel free to reach out. I really want to be intentional about building this community around the Real Conversations podcast. I think the more people that are like-minded and trying to aim up and do positive things, I think that's better for everyone. They say rising tide lifts all boats. And I think as And I know John and I thoroughly believe that. So if any of this resonates with you guys, if you want to talk about any of this with myself or John, reach out. I'm on Instagram at Jacob O'Connor. Would love to connect with you guys. I'm always meeting with people over at the restaurant, just trying to hear their story, see if I can provide value, help them in any way. I'd love to continue to meet you guys. I appreciate you guys listening every week. And if you guys enjoyed this, please make sure to share it with a friend. And I'll see you next week.